Welcome to Get Your Mind Right, Boots on the Ground, where we spotlight professionals in the field who have overcome challenges and how they work through them. Their stories offer real-world insights and tips for thriving in today's competitive landscape.
Good morning, John Johnson here, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right. This is the world's only podcast devoted to merchant services and digital marketing professionals. Now, with me today is Nellie Schlachter, and she is the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Financial Institutions. Good morning, Nellie.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. And, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I asked you to be on the show for a very specific reason.
Okay. What's that reason?
Well, you heard a story about someone being an expert earlier. So now the expert is you. I know you delivered this talk to at least a couple of banking conferences on Square.
Correct.
How they're coming for your depositors. And I knew about it. And then I saw your deck on it and it was absolutely dynamite. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Very good. It's a topic I'm very passionate about.
Well, I know that. I've heard you talk about that. And once again, I really consider you an expert in this field now. So let's just dive right into it here. So Nellie, for our audiences who don't know you, what Nellie does is goes out and works the banking channel, gets them set up with the appropriate solution, the appropriate product set for their depositors, and then plugs the sales force into that, creates a better situation for their depositors, makes them more money, cuts their risk, and cuts out their costs, while of course the bank earns money on this. So for you folks out there, Nellie is very, very sensitive to her banking relationships and ensuring that not only is her bank insulated from any potential harm, but also their depositors. And folks, we got a fox in the hen house, and that's Square.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I know makes your hair stand on end is you hear from banks all the time. They'll say, hey, we have a small merchant here, so we just told them to call Square.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so what's the problem with that?
Well, the problem is most community banks out there don't realize that Square in and of itself is a licensed chartered bank out of Utah. And they are very aggressively going after their merchants, getting them to open up deposit accounts online, Square checking, Square savings accounts. They also boast on their website that they've already lent over $24.5 billion in small business loans. Yeah. So they absolutely are poaching business from our community banks. And unfortunately, most of our banks are none the wiser.
Yeah.
Which is why that's my goal this year, is to just help spread the word and make bankers aware that they need to be cognizant and they really need to protect their deposits.
I misspoke earlier. I said they're letting a fox in the hen house. What they're actually doing by telling them to call Square is they're like holding the door open for the fox and say,
come on in.
Yeah, eat all you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big mistake.
Yep.
So why are banks doing this? Are they just unaware?
I just really think they're just unaware. I mean, Square honestly has done an amazing job. Their marketing team, hats off to them, because Square's almost become, a household name, much like an iPhone or an Apple these days, right? I mean, everyone knows it.
It's amazing. I mean, they've done they really were not taken serious by the industry when they came in, but they've built a great brand.
Yep.
And they've got some solid products.
They do. And I tell you, their online bank platform is impressive. I mean, it's very user-friendly. It's very easy to use. And honestly, they offer a lot of benefits that most banks don't offer. So,
well, you being an old banker, you appreciate that. Don't appreciate it in this case.
It's actually very scary. It truly is very alarming. And I appreciate you letting us just help spread the word, just really getting the word out there so bankers can be aware.
Well, so let's talk about that. You said they're offering a lot of services. Just take us through the panoply of services that they're offering to
So they are literally a complete, total online bank. Much like Ally Bank that you might be familiar with, but literally they have everything and now it's just for business accounts. Let me clarify that. It's not for consumer accounts, but strictly business accounts, right?
They don't do any consumer lending?
Nope, no consumer at all. It's all business because it is tied to their merchant account. And we can go into a lot of detail on that. But literally they have the business checking accounts. They have business debit cards. They can get up to 5 different debit cards for their employees. They even have online bill pay. And even their Square savings account, get this, their Square savings account is paying 1.75% APY on a basic savings account. There's no bank in the area that we can find paying 1.75 on a business savings account, right?
Because they don't have any overhead.
I know, but get this. This is even more alarming. The typical FDIC insurance coverage is $250,000 per signer, right? Per deposit, per signer, per beneficiary. Square's accounts are FDIC insured, but not for the typical 250,000. John, they're insured up to $2.5 million.
How are they doing that?
Per savings account. Do you know, I actually contacted my bank president where I worked previously, and I asked that same question. It's like, how can Square get $2.5 million? I thought it was capped at 250. And he shared with me, and I was unaware, that banks have the ability to purchase additional FDIC coverage, but it's very, very costly. So, of course, most banks, none that I was aware of before Square, actually goes through that and
Gotcha.
purchases additional coverage. But I can tell you from my banking experience, a lot of owners want to know, bank account owners want to know that their accounts are FDIC insured. So they're worried about making sure it's all covered, especially since we have seen some banks fail in the last couple of years. So for them to know that they can be insured up to $2.5 million, and literally just with the app and with one swipe, they can transfer funds in between accounts. They can transfer it out to an external bank account with one swipe. They're going to be, I mean, when business owners discover this, I fear they're going to be withdrawing a lot more funds from their local bank and putting it into Square just because of that FDIC insurance coverage.
So I didn't know about that, and Square's doing that for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
They're going after a bigger depositor.
Yep.
And they're offering that depositor a benefit that their local bank can't.
Absolutely.
So that I did not know that. That was new news to me. So
Yep.
Square is definitely, they're looking to go up market.
Yep.
Wow.
For sure.
So I heard some buzz about this Square checking. You know anything about that?
I do know a little bit about that. So first off, it is completely free. Everything with Square is free. So, I mean, there's no opening deposit required. There's no monthly fee. There's no minimum balance requirements. There's no overdraft fees. It takes the merchant less than 2 minutes to literally open up an account, and they have instant access to their sales. So with Square, when they're accepting credit card payments, those funds are immediately being deposited into their Square checking account instantaneously. Whereas, as you know, with a traditional merchant account, typical funding would be next day funding, right? Not instantaneous.
Is there any cost to the merchant for this?
Zero cost.
Wow.
Zero cost.
Okay.
Immediately available. So that means if I'm a business owner and I'm selling my goods or services and I take a credit card payment for $500, instantaneously, immediately, it's in my Square checking account and available on my debit card.
So I see the Square stations at small retailers and restaurants all the time. I mean, this is a big deal to them
because it's a very big deal.
They're typically cash poor and they need that money right now.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So what other kind of advantages do you see in their checking and saving product suite?
Well, the nice thing about it is that literally, as I mentioned, the funds are available to them, instantaneously, but they also have external transfers available.
Okay.
So the business owner might still have a bank account at their regular community bank. They can transfer out. And as long as they don't want it instantaneously, it's free. But if they want instant transfers, Square does charge a 1.75% fee for instant transfers. But as long as they just want it to be the next day, it's absolutely free for them to transfer out. So easy access to their money all the way around.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So tell me about this bill pay feature that they've got.
Yep. So, Square's banking options obviously are very user friendly. They're very appealing. But really with the online bill pay, I mean, it literally just makes them equally comparable in that regard to regular community banks, because a lot of people like to use that online bill pay. A lot of business owners are no longer actually mailing a check, right? So with the online bill pay, they have all of that available to them, and they can pay. They even have the ability to even print off paper checks if they want to do that. So it truly is just a full service feature for sure.
Okay. So you think their next move is to go full scale into full service banking?
I kind of doubt that we're going to see brick and mortars, because even a lot of banks today are reducing the number of brick and mortar locations as more and more people are doing online banking. But in my opinion, I don't know, John. I honestly, I can't imagine that they're going to go into consumer banking, right? Because the whole preface of it is that it's coming from the merchant services and it's tied to that.
Right.
And they were really very smart in what they've done. But I'm telling you, they're already a full service bank. When it comes to business banking, it's a full service bank. I was a business banker for years, and I can't think of one feature that we had at the banks I worked at that Square doesn't offer to their businesses now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's tremendous.
Yeah, it really is.
Let's talk about Square Loans. So they're proactive and they're very forward facing about offering loans to the users.
Yep.
So is this a benefit or is this a trap?
You know what? A little bit of both. Okay. First off, the Square small business loans range anywhere from $100 up to $350,000 is the maximum that they can give. But here's the nice thing. Here's several things that are very attractive to the business owner. First off, there's absolutely no application to fill out whatsoever. There is no credit pull. No, it does not affect their credit whatsoever, nor does it require a personal guarantee. So any bank that you go to and you get a loan, it's obviously going to be on your credit report. They're going to pull your credit, and it requires a personal guarantee.
Okay, now where's the devil getting ready to give me this contract with blood ink?
I know, right? So, and then get this, they don't charge interest, normal interest as we think about it, but instead it's just an upfront fee, a one-time fee for the loan. Now, the examples they give on their website, it's showing a 14.5% fee. Okay. So pretty stiff, right? But it's the convenience and it's the fact that there's no application to mess with. There's no credit pull. There's no personal signature guarantee, and the funds are immediately available in my account. And Square is proactively reaching out to every one of their merchants and telling them when they're eligible for a loan and telling them the amount that they are able to apply for.
Just sign here and you get the money.
Absolutely, immediately. And they make payback actually is pretty easy because you can pay back from the actual sales. So if on slower sales days, you pay a lesser amount, on higher sale days, you're gonna pay a higher volume, right?
So it's coming out every day.
It's fluctuality. Yes,
Okay.
yes, and it's fluctuating. Because what you're doing is you're setting up a percentage of your sales that's going towards the loan to be paid back.
Gotcha.
All right, and Square just has a requirement. There's a minimum requirement every 60 days. So as long as you've met the minimum requirement every 60 days, you're good. So, what would happen if you wouldn't have any sales for 60 days? Their fine print does say they could pull the funds from your Square checking or savings account, assuming you have funds in there, right?
Okay.
But 100% of the risk is on Square. There literally is no risk to the business owner because they've not signed a personal guarantee and it's not being reported on the credit report.
So Nellie, I've seen these loans before in the past by processors, and they don't really give an APR because that's their scheme for taking the money back. It's out of their daily deposit. But I've seen how that works out, and the effective rate is well over 100% APR. Is that what this is going to look like at the end of the day?
I'll be honest, I've not really sat down and ran a calculation and seen what that is, but I can imagine. And they do state also in their fine print that the loans can be paid off early.
But you've already paid your fee off.
That's right. The fee's part of it. So, it's going to be reduced. The fee will not be reduced if you do pay it off early.
I when I first got in this industry, I would hear these things and I would think, well, this just can't be true, right? These terms are just too onerous. But you get in the industry, you find out they're all way too true, right?
Yep.
And this was one of those these merchant advance loans. And
Yep.
I remember the first time I talked to a guy about this, I said, well, man, who would buy this stuff? And he said, well, you'd be shocked. He goes, we're just our underwriters are just covered up right now. Right, these loans. He goes,
Yep.
We're getting all we can eat.
Well, it's convenience, right? And a lot of times, think of it, instead of a business owner having to go take out a line of credit or draw on a line of credit if they need to, order some additional merchandise or do some marketing or upgrade equipment. Look how easy this is if it's right out there, because they have a Square dashboard and they literally can go look at their Square dashboard every day and see if they have funds available that they can draw on. And maybe they're going to offer you $100,000, but maybe I only need $20,000 right now. Then I can, the other 80,000 out there for me to draw on whenever I want.
Man.
So they make it very, very convenient.
So again, it's convenient, it's easy, they're not pulling credit. Beyond these just owner's terms, you see any other risks for the merchant associated with taking on one of these loans?
I'll be honest, I don't. That's what's scary,
Okay.
right? That's what's scary.
Other than
I mean, other than
super expensive.
yes,
Excuse me, super
right,
expensive.
right, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you're paying that high fee right up
Yeah.
front, right?
Yeah. Nellie, we're out of time today.
All right.
Can I get you to come back tomorrow for the second part of this?
I would absolutely love to.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Hey, folks, we're growing this podcast, and it's by the folks like you that are listening to this right now. It's by word of mouth. So if you like what you heard today, you've got a colleague, someone in the industry you think would appreciate it, I would appreciate it if you pass the word to them. For Nellie Schlachter, I'm John Johnson. Until next time, get your mind right.